What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Favale coming at you once again with the NBA podcasts, Yahoo Sports' Forbes' and Sports Illustrated. Mort Jensen, how are you doing, sir?
I am doing very, very well, Dan. Thank you so much for having me once again. I mean, I'm amazed that you keep inviting me in to ruin your show like this. It's very appreciated. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Look, me specifically, there's no greater feeling than going on to other people's shows and just torpedoing their downloads. That's my favorite. It's my favorite.
Nice. Yep. Same.
We got special treat though. Shout out to one of our Discord members, Braden, wanted us to do a fearless bold predictions for 2025. So not just this season, but encompassing the off season and then the start of the 2025-2026 season as well. Rather than Mort and I have provided a couple. Mort, I think, has one or two more than I do. We crowdsourced. So shout out to everyone on Discord and YouTube and Blue Sky with submissions. We had too many in a good way. So I had to narrow them down. If you included multiples, unless I could sandwich it under someone else's as well, I only selected one from each user, and we just couldn't get to all of them because we had a shit ton. And the goal is to do an hour of just fearless predictions for the rest of 2025 in the NBA specifically. We're not predicting anything about the world at large because that would be dark and dank and would depress the ever-living hell out of me. Mort, do you have any notes, questions, comments, concerns before we cannonball into this?
I will actually say that I do have a world prediction instead of just an NBA prediction. And my world prediction is that everyone will find a little bit more love in 2025.
You're full of shit. Let's get into the real feelers predictions.
Yeah, so this one is my first one, my fearless prediction, which might be a foolish prediction. The Wolves will suffer huge free agency losses. Both Julius Randle and Naz Reid will leave, and then they'll suddenly be on the media's "Where's Anthony Edwards going?" watch list. That's where I am. I have nothing to look. I have nothing to back this up with. Like Julius Randle, yes, he's a candidate. I will say before Wolves fans eat me alive, Naz Reid loves Minnesota. I'm fully aware of this. And that is why I'm saying it'll be a huge free agent loss. I could see it happening.
This is, I would say, and the goal here will be to basically, we'll talk about the likelihood of them, but is it too fearless, not enough fearless, the right amount of fearless? I guess this is the right amount of fearless. I just have is Julius Randle declining his $30.9 million player option? If he does that, to me, I'm just assuming he's staying with the Wolves at a lower number for a longer period of time, because who is even giving Julius Randle, who I don't think is necessarily the primary problem with the Wolves,
right?
Who's giving him more than the mid-level?
Look, we've said this about players beforehand. Remember when Dennis Schroeder was like, no, I can get more than 80 million from the Los Angeles Lakers. And then he didn't. There are players who overestimate their own value constantly. Given that Julius Randle constantly overestimates his own talent when on the court, why not overestimate his own value? I could see him going into something thinking, oh man, there are no one like on the market. Sign me up for the max, baby. Here we go. And then suddenly, you know, the crickets are chirping and he'll realize, whoa, the Brink truck ain't coming.
And then with Naz Reid, it's kind of the same thing. I guess it's more likely because he's younger, but he's turning down to his player options, what, 15 million for next season?
He's going to get better offers than 15, though.
Who is more than 15? The Nets, I guess, could pay him.
Oh, the Nets could absolutely go in and give him an offer. He can play next to Nick Claxton.
I will say, if they lose Naz Reid, I think it would be just a monumental blow to them.
Right.
So,
and I will say, this isn't wishes. It's very, very important.
Well, no, you're predicting.
Right.
Well, wouldn't this be a gauge of, well, how financially motivated was not just the short-term logic behind the Karl-Anthony Towns trade, but the long-term logic behind it? Because if you're letting Naz Reid walk, unless someone comes in and gives him, like, would you give? I guess some people would give Naz Reid 4 years and $100 million, but like the Wolves aren't. If the Nets give him the Nick Claxton deal, the Wolves aren't. But if he opts out and that's what's on the table, I don't think the Wolves would keep him. So maybe that's in play. But I think what happens with Naz Reid and even Julius Randle, because if he opts out and just leaves, then you kind of know that the Wolves, that was really financially motivated by them. I'll say it this way. This is probably the right amount of fearless, because I think I'd be shocked if more than one of these guys leaves.
Yeah. Look, I I want to come in hot here with this one. And I'm almost saying this is like the worst case scenario, but it's something feels off in Minnesota. And this is my fearless prediction. Like, how boring would it be if you asked me to come on a fearless prediction pod and I was like, well, the Wolves might lose Mike Conley.
That's the whole point of the exercise. So my first one is not as, nuclear, but Giannis Antetokounmpo will be starting and/or playing more than half of his minutes at the center spot by the end of 2025. Now, hold on.
Yeah.
This could be twofold because it might imply that Giannis Antetokounmpo has asked for a trade and been dealt, but it might also, Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis Jr. are going to be free agents. And like, what are kind of the Bucks doing here with their payroll and long term? I know Giannis is not, this is not based off anything we've seen this season. Giannis is not a 5. How are you feeling about this one, Mort? Too fearless, the right amount of fearless, not fearless
This
enough?
is where I know you've been paid by Basketball Reference, because this is the one spot he still needs to have every single season be typed out. Because right now, if you go to Basketball Reference and you look at his position, it says point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward. You only need center. You're a mole, man. You're a mole.
What do you mean I'm a mole? I still don't understand what you're saying.
No, on Basketball Reference. They have this thing. Yeah, they have this positional breakdown.
Oh, yeah, positional breakdown. Even the cleaning the glass, but like, he is not a center.
No. It's because every single season he's been labeled a different position. He's had a full year where he's been labeled a point guard, a shooting guard, or small forward.
That had to be at the beginning of his career, right? The point guard,
exactly. He's been a power forward for the past 6 years, but like that center is the one remaining position he's not played over the course of a full season to like get bingo. So no, I actually think this is. Look, he's 30, right? He's turning 30. No, he has to be 30 because he was born in 94. Yeah, he's 30. So, like, he's also going to slow down a little bit. Makes sense to put him at center a little bit. Brook Lopez is, he's exactly to the date 2 years younger than me, and I'm old as fuck. So, yes, that is definitely a factor. Bobby Portis, not really a center either. Defensively, a train wreck at center. So, I could see that. Why not? A 6'11" athletic Giannis at center?
Do you think he can be on the Bucks and do it, and their defense at that point be at its pinnacle? Just because the stuff he does is not best, is not traditional center stuff. And I'm not saying he can't do the traditional center stuff, but if he does, you need other people to do some of the Giannis stuff, and they don't have that waiting on the
was what you answered your own question right there. Yeah, the fact that they don't have something to replace him, that's the big issue. Like, who are you going to play up at the Giannis spot? Like Bobby Portis? Yeah, Bobby Portis is going to slide over to 4 different players in the span of 2 seconds. That's going to happen for sure. No, I suspect they'll be worse off. Absolutely.
More. What's your next one?
The Chicago Bulls actually slightly win a trade.
That's
self-explanatory.
Too fearless.
I wanted to put a word in there that was like just slightly, because I couldn't justify just putting the Chicago Bulls actually win a trade. I couldn't justify that. It has to be slightly, only like in the margins.
What do you think what would that look like? Is it getting, so they get a first for Zach LaVine? Do you consider that a win?
Yes, that's a win. Or getting 2 seconds out of Nikola Vucevic, that's a win. Just like slightly, just something where you're kind of looking at it and going, oh, the Bulls actually did fairly well in this return, instead of Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso.
Wouldn't them just acting like an actual seller qualify as a victory?
Yes, that too. Just the fire sale.
So low here.
Yeah. Don't you just give your old guys away just to start something new? Yes, why not?
This is too fearless, though. Couldn't you make the case that like they could trade Zach LaVine, not get back any picks, and some people might still view that as a win?
Of course. That last one was a joke on my part. No, when I say slight win a trade, I do mean getting more value in return than what you send out, obviously. Yes.
I hope that I will root for this, just because I feel like the reactions to it from Bulls fans, from media, podcasters, the whole nine. I just want the Bulls to act like buyers at the deadline. I want them to do something like that would just seal it as just what is going on here.
Like, why you so mean? This is like, so here's the thing. I was a Bulls fan for 22 years until I got off the train, and thankfully I did. Made a lot of great friends along the way who are Bulls fans, and Dan, they are so sad. They're sad human beings at this point. They're like, just half of them are like have grown as big as I am, and it's a mess, man. It's like it's a complete mess. They have to have something going for them, and if a second round pick that the Bulls squeeze out of some team for some rando, listen, man, if that helps them find some motivation in life, some slight bit of happiness in their lives, let's go for it. Let's root for that.
Here's one for you, Mort. 2 of the Denver Nuggets' preferred starters will end 2025 on a different team. And I'm just assuming that Aaron Gordon is still because Russell Westbrook is currently starting and Gordon came off the bench during his first game.
Oh.
How are you feel now? Do you want me to? I feel like I should unpack this a little bit.
All right, go for it.
They're not going to trade Nikola Jokic. So that's just one kind of right. But like everybody else, I would assume Aaron Gordon's still important, too important to their defense. But Christian Brown, extension eligible this summer. They still have Peyton Watson, where people, and I think they're correct, believe that he's the one that has more upside. They signed Jamal Murray to this new deal. They've clearly been very cost conscious. I think the easy thing to say would be, oh, well, one of them, and Michael Porter Jr. has already been mentioned in trade rumors. I think you can make the case that usually you would say, oh, trading one starter in their position would be like, that's pretty bold. But in their thing, like their current trajectory, couldn't they kind of reach a point where they feel like they need to be, the outlook for them, I think, even with the, Aaron Gordon availability overall, like they're 4th in the Western Conference. It's like the outlook for them is not as dire as it kind of felt at the beginning of the year, but you're also kind of wondering, well, all right, is what's in place enough to continue the course? And so I think that they're going to have to get to a point where they will realize we're still a good team, but what we're doing, what we tried to do is prohibitive to us ever being a great team while Nikola Jokic is still in his prime. And I just look at the 3 players I look at for this is Christian Brown, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. So I'm basically saying that 2 of those 3 would be traded. And even with Aaron Gordon, I might be jumping the shark by a year just because they had him opt into his deal as part of his extension. But something about Denver's longer term viability just feels iffy to me.
I think this would be more fearless if you actually named the 2 that you think would be moved off.
I think it's going to be Jamal Murray and Christian Brown.
Okay, that's a little less fearless. If you'd said Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., I would have been right there.
They're just going to go full Aaron Gordon, nuclear. Jokic, and the kids, and just
that would be toasty. No, I could see it. I could see it. There's also the other side of the spectrum, right? Where their investment in the youth movement works out, and they actually come back a better team next year. Maybe Jamal Murray, knock on wood again, returns to form. I mean, that is a possibility that exists. I could see this if things just kind of unravel, though.
Which, again, I don't know what my confidence meter would be on this, but that's why these things are fearless.
Yep.
Another one from Mort. What do you got for me?
Victor Wembanyama has a 3-game stretch where he averages a 5x5.
That's just not fearless enough. There's nothing you could tell me about Wemby that qualifies as fearless.
And see, that's the thing, because I was thinking about this when I put it in, and I was like, perhaps I should have said, a 5-game stretch, because that would at least be up there.
I'm trying to think of how many games you would need to say for me just to be like, no.
Oh boy.
Doesn't it really come down to the steals? Is everything else? You told me he averaged 5 blocks a game. All right, whatever.
But that's the thing. I've seen so much of him that I'm not even surprised when he has like 3 steals at the end of the third.
So what's the number for me? I think you would have to go to 10 for me to say this is fearless, that there's a 10-game streak. And also with him, it's just, he can have these nights though, where he had 8 steals one night. So him averaging a 5x5 over the course of a 10-game stretch.
Yeah.
If he has 1 or 2 of those outings that compensate for ones that are more human.
No. When I say averages at 5x5, I mean that literally. Don't worry. I'm not
have 3 consecutive games of going 5x5.
That's what I'm saying. Don't worry. I'm not. The other one would be chicken shit. Come on. That's
So
like,
I think it needs to be, let's go the old Domino's pizza route and call it the 5 by 5 deal. I think the right amount of fearless is for 5 games, he will go 5 by 5.
Now that this is for 2025. I might go with that one for 2026.
All right, that's fair. Probably the right amount. There's almost nothing you could say to me about Wemby where I'm just going to say you're out of your mind.
Right.
I think this is my last one that I have in here. I didn't include as many because we had great ones from our listeners and subscribers. I want to make sure we get to all of them. Mort, by the end of 2025, Zion Williamson and a contract that is completely non-guaranteed, which one could make an argument those non-guarantees are more valuable to other teams than the Pelicans, will be traded.
I mean, if that was supposed to be fearless, you are the most cowardly person on the face of the earth.
I had others, but we have so many Wemby ones that I had to cut down from. So I want to have a Spurs or a Wemby one in there.
Right.
Honestly, I thought about like New Orleans just goes thermonuclear and trades everybody but Trey Murphy. That's the
and Yves Missy, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, Yves Missy. Just Yves Missy, Trey Murphy in this year's draft pick. That's the foundation.
There we go. No, I don't think this is fearless at all. Look, Dan, there is a reasonable chance that by the time this episode airs, Zion Williamson will be in a different uniform.
Do you do believe it's more likely that they trade him than they just waive him, right?
Oh, yes. Of course they'll try to trade him.
I've just seen too many people talk about like, oh, what's the possibility of them doing this? And I think it's less than 0.
No, I'm not there. Like things would have to go like egregiously wrong for that to make any sense. I mean, I'm not there.
So not fearless. What if I said Brandon Ingram is still on the Pelicans while Zion Williamson is not?
A little bit more fearless. You're still a bit of a coward, but yes.
I'll take it. This one from Mort, I think everyone's just going to be very excited by.
Yeah. So America accepts that the NBA's future is in the hands of Europeans, then unaccepts it only to push the hardcore America media narrative for Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, and Cooper Fleck.
A lot of Anthony. You're already saying Anthony Edwards is going to request a trade. I mean, I will say this might be too fearless because I don't know if the NBA is willing to accept it. Or at least the public. So just like
it's the public. It's not the NBA. It's the public. So here's the thing. What I've noticed:
fair, the NBA's done a poor job of marketing many of their international super. Like, why isn't Shai being like trotted out there as a potential face of the league?
Right. So I will say this: they have marketed the international players very well over here, at the very least.
Okay.
But they also know that fans in the US tend to respond better to American players. The reason I mention this is because I'm still suffering the effects of last playoffs where, the national media started driving the whole Anthony Edwards is the next Michael Jordan thing. And I will say the vast majority of my problem with it was actually not in regards to Europe versus US or anything. It was, I think that was an unfair label to put on a young man still trying to find his way in the league. I thought that was just such a bad thing to do to Anthony Edwards. I think it was way too soon. I don't think it was fair to him. And I'm just, every time we see someone come up with these lists, like now it seems like everyone which is a reputable source now are saying, okay, Wemby is first in terms of like, who's the future of the NBA. But like, even up till about 4 months ago, people were still trying to sneak American players in front of Wemby, where I was like, I know what you're doing. Stop it. Like, just stop it. And we shouldn't even mention his name because then he might appear and provide us bad analysis. But like Gilbert Arenas saying that the NBA would be better. Yeah, Arenas would be better if the NBA just kind of removed all the Europeans, which is just bullshit. So I just wanted to get it out there. It might even not be fearless. I just wanted to get that out there that's the thing that's going to happen.
You know what's interesting? This is a good example of how in my silo I am, is like, I don't have in any of my feeds or the content I consume that disdain for there being so many transcendent international players in the league, in the pipeline, however you want to frame it. Who would be the best chance of an American born player being the future face of the league, right? Like, who has the best chance of doing it?
So are we talking about the marketing angle, or are we talking about
no, actually being good enough to,
yeah.
So I'll say you have to be like Wemby or Luka's equal or Shai's equal or better,
right?
For an extended period of time.
that's the thing. I don't think that player's there. I mean, I do think Anthony Edwards probably has the best chance, and yet I don't think so. Like, I don't think he's up there.
I hope
And
it's LaMelo.
the reason I
The
asked
State
you
of
in terms of
America, LaMelo Ball. What about, I mean, do you think
right.
that if they get to a point where they have to bust up some of the team for financial reasons, like I think I haven't voted for him for MVP, but like Jason Tatum is just really, really good.
He's
And
fantastic.
I think he does get, if not underrated, like undervalued, underappreciated in the lens of superstar discussions. And I'm wondering, is it going to take, he needs the type of like this, like he can't have as good of a support. Like it needs to be a Jokic in Denver situation, not, or maybe not even that stark, but let's say Anthony Edwards in Minnesota last year situation where like the supporting cast is good, but it's not that good when you're looking at the top of it.
I think that's it. And that's unfair. You know, I don't want to put Jason in a situation where he's forced to do that just to
might happen organically. Like
it might.
Celtics are definitely more fragile now than they were this time last year. It feels like,
I think with Tatum, it's all about the lack of, you know, dominance. And when I say it's such a bad argument because what is dominant? But like you see Jokic, you see Wemby, you see when Giannis is like fully engaged and fully locked in, they're dominant in a way that I don't think Tatum quite reaches. And it's like like so close. So it feels I feel bad about like criticizing Tatum for that because he just won a championship. He is definitely by far the best player on the Celtics. He's so good. It feels like he's like 5% away from entering that upper echelon. And I just have such a hard time seeing where those extra 5% comes from.
Fair. So I'm going to throw out some what I would deem of longer shots, but should probably be in the discussion. If either of these players, let's just say there's 3 years, 2 or 3 years where they're just absolutely positively healthy.
Yeah.
Can Zion Williamson or John Morant do it?
In terms of the highlight reels and the exposure, yes. In terms of their games,
no, I'm talking like having the impact enough to where maybe even if the NBA is not doing it, podcasters like us are pushing them as like, oh, hey, look at how amazing these guys are.
No, because they have to stack up to those guys. Like again, Wemby has kind of pushed the ceiling. Wemby has pushed the ceiling. We can't get out of that. Nikola Jokic is currently the best player in all of basketball. Like you won't find, you know, a real hoop head who disagrees with that notion, I think. And he is such a ridiculously smart player to the point where he can dominate games through his mind, really. He sounds like a Jedi. I don't think Ja or Zion can do that.
I think that's fair. So, like, even look at it as being just because Wemby is just not from this galaxy,
right?
Even just looking at it as like being the second in command for the league, or someone where it's like we want to see this matchup. You don't think either of those two at their peak and healthy have the type of impact on the floor that could put them there?
Well, I see. That's the thing. I don't want to close the door, but I have a hard time seeing it. So, like John Morant, let's take him for example. He would need to expand his game quite considerably. Like he would need to have like a real sicko season. Does he have that in him where he hits like 39% of his threes, where he's a much more fluid defender, where he's like his court vision improves, like he gets his assist numbers up, his efficiency up. Like it feels like, you know, you go down the list of things that has to improve for him to get there. And then suddenly you're looking at it and you're going, oh, that's quite a long list. And is it reasonable to expect him to like solve all those things? I don't know the answer to that. I don't personally think it would be. That's probably where I am. And it's the same with Zion. Like he's not a great rebounder. While the defense improved last year, he's still not necessarily, you know, a highly influential defender. His playmaking is good. It's not elite. His outside shot is a work in progress at best. Like again, the list is of things that are just it's long, and that's where I tend to question some. And to your point, Jason Tatum is probably the most, you know, complete player of these guys mentioned.
Well, I was trying to think of just like even younger dudes, so like they'd have more time to marinate. Is there like there's Anthony Edwards still, obviously. What about Cade Cunningham or Evan Mobley? Do either of them have the 99th percentile
Ooh.
outcome that gets there?
Yeah, so Cade was not a guy I considered before this year. I think he is making some real headway. Like, if this court vision that he's shown this year, if that's real, you have a 6'6" point guard who's going to give you like 25, 10, 7 rebounds, quality defense. Then the question is, his percentages, are they going to go up? I think so. He's only 23. I mean, yeah, he's got a shot at it. Yeah, for sure.
What about Amen Thompson? You don't see him ever getting
that was yeah. That I did not expect that name. That's interesting. I'm not at all there, but like in terms of just the clay that he is right now and the way that he can be molded, that's super interesting. That's a good name. Like I have no idea how. Like you have to get him into the right hands, right? Like it has to be the right hands that molds his talents.
Right, and it's just like if he's making this many waves when his role on the Rockets, it's big, but it's moderate compared to what we think of with these other up-and-coming stars. If you're all of a sudden looking, Amen Thompson's averaging 36 minutes per game and running the offense, I just wonder if he stays that good on defense and that nuclear as an athlete, be interesting.
But it's so it must be a little annoying to some Americans at least that Shai is from Canada because he's the answer you're looking for.
Not Jalen Williams or Chet Holmgren.
Love them, but no, sorry, sir.
Not Case Wallace either. You think there'll be a push to make Cooper flag that when he comes in? Do you think he's good enough to have a chance at even like being mentioned in that breath?
Yeah. So from a PR perspective, first and foremost, we have to just mention it, right? Like the big white hope. I mean, that's been a thing we've heard for years. We've heard it. Like, come on, we've heard it. We've heard the rumblings that the NBA needs a white player who's really, really good, and especially an American-born player. Like, I hate that we have to talk about that because I don't think that's important, but it's something that keeps getting brought up, like again and again from talking heads who unfortunately have influence. I don't think it should matter, but a lot of people seem to do. Like I don't go to Facebook very often, but when I do, and I go over like some of the boards, I see those comments all the time. Like, I'm not interested in the NBA because I need some blah, 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 blah. There's not a white player. And it's obviously it's bullshit. It's racist bullshit. But apparently it's a sentiment a lot of people have. So I think there's going to be a level of attempt to make Cooper Flag that guy, which I think is unfair to him. Like, he shouldn't be marketed because of,
I mean, the default should be you root for everybody to just be that good because those are fun debates and discussions then to have.
Exactly. And look, I would love it if Cooper Flag becomes that dude, because while I'm sitting here as a European celebrating the fact that people from my neck of the woods are dominating, the upper echelons of the league, I'm also a realist, and I know that there are Americans that tend to actually say, look, I'm not going to watch this if I can't pronounce these last names, if this isn't something that I know. Like, no, but we've heard that before. We've heard that criticism before. So I also know that the game in some type of way suffers when there isn't, an overwhelming American presence. Like, you need a Michael Jordan, LeBron James. If Cooper Flag becomes that guy, if he becomes a superstar, like an American superstar, and he's that dude, or if it's Ace Bailey, or if it's Dylan Harper, whoever, that's going to be great for the league, because then Americans will jump in, and then hopefully we'll have much fewer of those goddamn rating chats.
Well, I guess also another nominee, at least Darko Rajakovic would think so, but Scotty Barnes faced the league.
Scotty Barnes.
That would be, I don't know if he's going to get that good. I have all sorts of questions about where the Raptors are headed, but he kind of has the archetype of the game that you would want. Like the guy with size who can impact it as a defender, as the primary playmaker, as a scorer. It's just all those sort of, they're too much of what he can do. Like the scope of his impact is so broad, but it's also so unpolished in all these many different areas.
That's interesting. I have another one for you, actually. So let's assume, right, that over the course of night, magical sprinkle dust falls upon Grady Dick, and he becomes the next Michael Jordan. Okay, could the league ever really market a guy with that last name?
They'd probably force him to change it legally.
Right?
He'd be like Grady. Maybe he could use a synonym, Grady Johnson.
No, but I think even if you had a guy who was like Michael Jordan-esque, but had a last name like that, I think the league would just be like, uh-oh, what the hell do we do here?
They should lean into it because people honestly love that stuff.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about Dick, I think it's time to ask you about the NBA Paris games, of which you will be attending.
That was a fun segue. that was an Eiffel Tower reference. I love that. Okay. No, I am going with two buddies who I record with here in Denmark. We are going to go to Paris next week to cover the two Paris games, and I'm looking very, very much forward to it. We'll be doing some coverage for Yahoo. I'm going to do a ton of Danish coverage, which isn't going to be relevant to your viewers and listeners, but definitely going to be writing about it over at Yahoo for sure. It's going to be so exciting. I think I've been there before. I was there 2 years ago. At a very exciting Bulls Pistons event 2 years ago. But I will say that the support is amazing. Like the NBA does such a good job, and not trying to blow smoke up their ass, but like really, I came away blown away by the effort and just the amount of time they'd spend prepping these games for European audiences. Like they'd gone all out. Like I love it. I think it's so important to keep the attention level up over here, and I hope they expand with more games on European soil. Absolutely.
Are you going to be able to get, like, are you and Wemby going to be homies after this? Like, how does this work? Can we get him of a cut-in of saying you're listening to the Hardwood Knocks podcast?
Oh man, look, I would love that. I would love that. So I'm guessing that Wemby is going to be surrounded by approximately 1.2 million media members at all times. So I'm aiming a little differently. We are going to attend some press conferences and some open practices and whatnot, and I will be attending Adam Silver's press conference. So I'm hoping to get a question in there. I'll try for Wemby for sure, but if it falls apart, I can't be blamed. Like he's back in Paris, I can't be blamed.
I will blame you though. I just want you to know
that's
that.
fair.
So have a blast, be safe. That should be fun though. I mean, Wemby in Paris at this point, that's got to be like a caps lock experience.
Yes. So 2 years ago at the aforementioned Bulls Pistons game, the biggest like reaction of the crowd was during, I want to say, the first or second quarter. Wemby just kind of slingers onto a courtside seat, and that was while the game was going on, and he unquestionably got the biggest reaction from the crowd. And that's when he was playing with the Metropolitans 92. So for him to actually feature in these two games, I also love the fact that the NBA made it 2 games instead of 1. That's just chef's kiss. Oh, and by the way, in the last episode we talked about the Pacers. They're going to be there too. So Tyrese Haliburton for 2 games. Love that. This can only be a success for the league, for the Spurs, for the Pacers, for fans. I'm going to be soaking it all in.
You have one more to get to until we get to our listener submissions, which I've saved a pretty spicy one for last. So everybody should just stick around for that and totally ignore the timestamps that we include because you technically don't have to stick around. You could skip to it. I'm going to read it. Dalano Banton will have a 55-point game in 2025.
Yeah, look, it has to be fun, okay? And I could just see it. I could just see a guy coming out of nowhere and having that type of game. Like it was Malachi Flynn for the Raptors. Like I could just see like a late March game. It might be in a couple months where half the roster is injured, the rest of the roster more or less are like sitting out because they have nothing to play for. They're just putting this skeleton crew in the game. And during warmups, Banton's kind of realizing, I got it going. I'm hitting these shots. Like I can take a lot of pull-ups tonight. Like I have some juice. And then it's against some team that's disinterested in playing defense. And suddenly you're looking at the box score. He's got 27 points. There are like 10 minutes left in the third quarter. And he's like, fuck it. I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go for 50. He gets 50. He even gets the double nickel.
I fave random 50-point games, so I'll be here for it.
Nice.
On to subscriber submissions. This one comes from Morton. I will alternate. I'll tackle this one. From D Nitz. In the summer of 2025, more guys will sign the Jalen Green type contract or extension, 3 years, with a player option.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I don't hate that. I think you have to be a Jalen Green type of player too, because this was very much the Rockets kind of hedging their bet a little bit, even though I still wonder who they would like be negotiating against. Like if you're a clear-cut level above him, you're not going to sign that type of contract. I think you'd want the security. Unless, of course, you're thinking his logic might be, the 7-year mark, I'm guessing.
Right. So I'm wondering if just like it's probably something you're going to see more of, like it would be a restricted free agency discussion, right? You're thinking more restricted free agents or would be restricted free agents are going to sign shorter extensions.
Because if it's 3 additional years after your rookie season, then you've passed the 7-year mark, and then you're eligible for 30%. So I will say this. My former podcast host, Brian Saporik, a friend of yours as well, one of your colleagues, he's brought up for a while now, players are now earning so much money, like just in terms of the raw volumes, that perhaps they lose incentive of like timing their contracts to like that 7-year threshold, which I think is interesting. Like, I'm not saying that is an absolute certainty, but I do think it's an interesting perspective because these guys are like earning $40 million now when they're 22 years old. Is that going to be a factor in when they sign a deal? I don't know. Like, are they insisting upon the 30% max after their 7th year? We'll see.
I'm trying to think of like who is going to be extension eligible after this season. So at that point, we're talking about that is the 2022 draft class, right?
Right. Yeah.
Ones are going to be extension eligible. So you have Paolo, but that's like, I mean, why would he like? They're going to give him the max, so that's not an issue.
That's a max.
Chet Holmgren, he gets the max. Maybe if they try to build in some type of injury protection.
Yeah, he's only played 92 career games. I mean, you'd have to.
Maybe Jabari Smith. That could be an interesting one.
It might be a Houston special.
Keegan Murray.
Yeah, he's not a max guy either.
Jaden Ivey.
Benedict Mathurin. That's a good name to like pull up there.
Maybe even Shaedon Sharpe. The guys that we're mentioning, I don't know. That's fascinating. I love this one.
This is a really good one.
I do think this is the right amount of fearless. I like Christian Brown might be another one. What is he going to want? Or like Jalen Williams in OKC, that's a max. So like maybe that's a really good one. That was a thing. I'd probably lean towards no, because I just don't think most of these guys, if you're not an auto max, you're not going to have the leverage, I think, necessarily. But maybe you're willing to bet on yourself, though. Like I'd be shocked if a Benedict Mathurin did it. I will say that. And Shaedon Sharpe, just having been all over the place the first 3 years, I wonder if a Keegan Murray might actually be a good. Jabari Smith is a good example for sure, but a Keegan Murray where it's, well, you're trying to pay me based off, I'm super important to you on defense, but like, what could my role be elsewhere? If you're trying to pay me like OG Anunoby, like count plus inflation on his extension, the answer is going to be no. So could you go that route? And if your teams, though, would you rather just if you're faced with this before they enter restricted free agency, for the most part, wouldn't you rather just let them enter restricted free agency and then match? Because maybe there's or do you not even want to go that far? Like, why would you give someone like kind of hamstring yourself that way as part of an extent? Houston did it because like Jalen Green is such a controversial or divisive player, but they also have all these other options coming up the pipeline, and people view them as a consolidation trade spot. They're just in such a unique situation. This one made me think, though. I fade this one, D-Nits.
Yeah, I love this too. It's interesting, right? Because I do think you need to toe the line between squeezing the ever-living shit out of guy and also making sure you're respectful. Like, there are guys who are going to be super pissed if they get squeezed in restricted free agency. Like, you also have to remember, if a guy feels like he was outright getting abused in negotiations and he ended up with a shitty deal, that's not going to be a great, starting factor for the continued relationship between team and player. I hear you, though. Like, the market is set up now for teams to strongly benefit from just letting guys get into restricted free agency.
What's up for us next, Mort?
The Detroit Pistons will skip the play-in tournament entirely and make the playoffs as the 6th seed. And since this would be in 2025, we're just a couple months away from that.
Look, I think it's probably the appropriate amount of fearless because they are, as we record this, they're only a couple games out of the 6th spot. But what you're saying is they need to be better than, I'm just looking at the teams that like Cleveland, Boston, New York, and even Orlando. They're just going to make the playoffs. I think that's just, we're kind of dead set. I mean, Orlando is like their record. So you're saying they need to be better than 2 of Orlando, Indiana, Milwaukee, Miami, Atlanta, and I won't even mention Chicago, like, and Philadelphia though. So they have to be better than 2 of. Oh, I'm sorry. They have to be better than 3. Like they have to usurp at least 2 of those teams. Excuse me. That's what I meant.
That's a big one. Like, I'm not closing the door, but like I said in the previous episode, like we're recording this on January 14th. Like the Pistons have won 30% of this season's games within the past 2 weeks. So like this could be a situation where they're just super hot to a point where they're going to come down to reality at some point soon, or this could be their new norm and they're just riding through. If it's the latter, hell yeah, Bobby Buckets 13 has a point. If not, and it's just like a little whimsical thing, then I'm not seeing it.
I struggle to see them finishing ahead of both Milwaukee and Indiana without, if they make some sort of a trade that we don't see coming and we're viewing them as they might be opportunistic, but they're not going to be aggressive at the deadline. If they decide to be aggressive and do something nobody sees coming, maybe. I think that makes this the perfect amount of fearless from Bobby Buckets, though.
I agree.
This next one comes from Drizzy Watts. It's also Pistons related. Cade Cunningham will make 2nd team All-NBA more.
I don't hate that.
I don't hate any of these.
No. I think people understood the assignment here. Yeah. It's kind of fearless and yet still not entirely fearless. Like it's a good middle ground take. He's got the game for it.
He's got the game. 2nd team is tough.
Yeah, I was thinking 3rd too.
He'll be in the mix for 3rd, but that's why you pick 2nd, because what are the players that you're automatically going to include over him right now? So Shai, Jokic, Tatum, Giannis, and then
Luka is out helps them.
Luka is like not going to have played enough games for sure. But like I guess there's a bunch of question marks at like, will Towns make an All-NBA team? Because it's positionless. Will Towns make there's Jalen Brunson to consider. Tyrese Halliburton is going to be in the mix if he's healthy and continuing to play like this. There's just I'm trying to think of just like right now, who would I guarantee a spot in All-NBA over Cade? And I think you could probably get to 10. I would assume pretty easily. Like 10 spots above him, pretty like Shai, Jokic, Wemby, Tatum.
Wemby over. Tatum over.
Who are we forgetting? Like Giannis.
Edwards? Did you just say Edwards?
There's Anthony Edwards. There's Anthony Davis. That's 7.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson, or I would say one of Jalen Brunson or Towns will probably finish ahead.
Yeah, you have to have, especially if the Knicks are that high.
We didn't mention any Cavs. Mitchell, Garland, Mobley.
See, that's funny because like they're playing, a lot fewer minutes this year, individually speaking. So their raw numbers are down, but their impact is ridiculous. So like, educated media members will immediately realize, oh yeah, you have to put some of these guys up there. But some media members might look at it and go, no, they're not playing enough minutes. We can't justify it.
I like this. I think he probably has a better, if you read this off rip, I think he would say it's too fearless, but he might just have if the Pistons, especially if they make the 6th seed, that's only going to boost Cade Cunningham's chances of all that. Yeah. Mort, are you ready to take us to our next one?
Yes, sir. The Wolves get further than the Knicks in this year's playoffs, only due to health, but still, from Brett Bauer.
Yeah.
Fearless. That is fearless.
That's fearless. Mostly because the Knicks should win a first-round playoff series, and Minnesota is not guaranteed to do that. Like I have not seen enough consistency out of their offense specifically to think whoever they're going to pull. And they could also just finish with New York. They'll probably have the 3 seed. You could at least say that. And with the Wolves, are they coming in by way of the 10 seed, the 4 seed? Like what is this? I think that's caps lock fearless, but I don't know if it's too fearless. Because if you believe in Minnesota's defense and ability to kind of muck up a series, then if you're
it could be just the Anthony Edwards show. I mean, look, that's always I kind of get it. Like, because sometimes you just have that transcendent star who'll just fucking take you home for 2 games, right? And then that's enough.
I will say the Knicks should probably be a little bit concerned that we didn't just dismiss this more quickly. After you gave up what you did to get Mikal Bridges, who's been better, but I don't know how to feel about but I would bet on the Knicks winning a playoff series before I would bet on the Wolves winning a playoff series. I would absolutely, like, that's a stance I absolutely have right now.
Mm-hmm.
Next one comes from someone who's like, his name sounds like he'd be a terrible human being.
Yeah.
Wemby will be considered a consensus top 5 player by January 1st, 2026.
This person can't even stick within the rules.
That's not bold enough, because you should have said by the end of this specific season. That would be a little bit more fearless, because
no, this isn't fearless. And again, he can't even stick within the rules. This was 2025. He goes into 2026. What a moron. Who is this guy?
Sounds like a terrible human being.
Absolutely a terrible human being.
Do you have Wemby as a top 5 player right now?
Yes.
I haven't sat down to like actually do it, but when I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, Giannis, Luka, Jokic, Shai, and then I'm kind of like,
yep,
all right,
that's exactly the 4 people that I have in front of him. Then I'm hearing arguments, from people who have Tatum above him and Anthony Davis above him. And look, that's fine, cool. Like, to each their own. I have Wemby 5th.
Fair argument. So I don't think this is fearless. I almost would say
it's not.
I'd be more surprised if he's not considered a consensus top 5 player by December 31st.
Right, exactly. It feels like this person, whoever it is just sleep deprived because he just had a baby a few months ago.
People are going to say, the comments will say that we're glazing Wemby too much, though. But he's in the conversation right now, and that's a big fucking deal when you're year 2.
I don't care what the comments say of whether
comments are our audience, so you do care what they say.
No, about whether I glaze. Look, what I'm just saying what I think, man.
Mort, what's up next?
The Hawks will win a playoff series. I mean,
coming from that high up.
Yeah, is that fearless? I don't think. I mean, look, again,
that's fearless.
Is it though? I mean, look, we've seen teams like come into the play-in and even like go all the way to the finals, like win a playoff series. I just don't think it's that much of a stretch in the East.
I mean, there's a chance though that if they get into the playoffs, they have to beat the Celtics or the Cavs.
Right. Okay. But if that had to be prefaced, if that's the preface, okay, then this is like fearless caps lock.
So you're saying you wouldn't care if they have to go up against the Knicks, who will probably be 3. Like, I think once you get past, I mean, it'd be really funny if Trae Young beat the Knicks in the playoffs again. I'm not going to lie. Right. That being said, I think it's fearless.
Orlando.
The first 3, but I'm saying the first 3 teams in the East, it wouldn't shut, like, that's 75% of their
I would say the first
opponent.
2. The only 2 teams where I would be proper shocked is Boston and Cleveland.
I'd still be shocked if they beat the Knicks in a playoff series.
I mean, look, I'm at that point where I've just seen too much NBA to like really be surprised at that. Perhaps that's just me being jaded, where I've seen too much shit like that over the course of my life, or perhaps the 2016 Warriors just ruined me. Like, I'm just not going to give, like, I'm not going to give into the expectation level. Like, I could absolutely see this Hawks team just push.
But then wouldn't that make this the appropriate amount of fearless still? You're saying this isn't fearless. That sounds...
All right. I'll amend it. It is fearless depending on situation.
Okay. So let's get to the next one. So it's fearless. That's the moral of the story.
Fair enough.
This one comes from @TomForLife2001, a regular commenter on our YouTube channel. What up, Tom? Kings trade Fox to the Spurs. Then the Fox trade assets to Utah, and the Kings get Lauri Markkanen in return. I would say the specificity of this, just we have to default to that's fearless.
Absolutely.
You left yourself no margin to be like wiggle room to be right or wrong. It's you're right or wrong, and that's it.
Yeah, no. I love it. And like that has been a rumored thing that the Spurs like Fox. We'll see because the Kings are playing better under Doug Christie. So
I
that
will say
whole
I will understand Sacramento's direction even less if they trade Fox and it's not and like so then it's Sabonis and Lauri Markkanen and Keegan Murray and DeMar DeRozan. I just don't like that would
yeah,
be an
that's fair.
objectively weird spot to be in. So if
Yeah.
they trade De'Aaron Fox, I think this is fearless for that reason because
Yeah,
if
that's a
they
good
trade
point.
Fox, I think it signals more of an overhaul.
Yeah. That's interesting. DeMar DeRozan returning to his shooting guard position where he started out his career at like age 35 and 36. That'd be awesome.
Would that be the weirdest team in the NBA where it's okay? You have Larry Markkanen basically on his max, Sabonis, DeRozan, Malik Monk. I wouldn't know how to feel about that team.
No. It'd be a weird team.
But I guess they would have some draft assets. Although no, because if you're Larry Markkanen, I think gets less on the trade market than Fox. So you're not going to have a ton of assets left over if you trade. It would almost be close to a straight up swap, I would feel like. So I think I'd feel worse about Sacramento's future if that happened.
Where would that team rank on our League Pass rankings? That's what I want to know. The Kings.
It might be one because I'd be confused as shit. I love it. I like this one, Tom.
All right. So three-way Jazz parlay. Patty Mills gets moved and plays playoff minutes potentially for OKC after the AJ Mitchell injury. Cody Williams makes an all-rookie team, and Kyle Filipowski takes Walker Kessler's job.
Yo, shout out to just being so specific on these predictions.
At Yoho, look, man, I have no analysis to this other than this is fearless shit.
I will say it's fearless across the board. Yeah. I don't think Patty Mills would play minutes on OKC. No. Mega shout out to Yoho for acknowledging the AJ Mitchell injury. Everyone was talking about how he was going to be converted from his two-way because he was playing so much. I can't look Cody Williams since he's entered the rotation. He's shooting like 39% from three. I still think he's like, you see the aggression on defense. There's not enough aggression on offense. I don't know what the logic would be. Even if let's fast forward ahead to next season because Cody Williams all rookie has to happen this year.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the logic behind putting Kyle Filipowski in for Walker Kessler? The more dynamic offensive player, sure, but as a defender,
they hire his babysitter as head coach?
Too soon. Too soon. I love this one though. I would be of the other three. Do you think the last one is the boldest, or is it the Cody Williams for all rookie? I think
the last one. The last one. I think we as an NBA society has grotesquely begun to underrate the influence of Walker Kessler
as a rim protector. Like even just look at that. Like I feel like that's a huge.
Yeah.
What do we got next here? This one. Oh, we got double dipping. So SGA is the MVP. And the Celtics won't make the conference finals. That comes from Retro Braden, the inspo behind this podcast. And then D Nitz has Boston and Dallas continue the 7-year tradition of no repeat NBA finalists. The first one, SGA winning MVP, I don't think that's not fearless because he might you look at it. As someone who picked Jokic in our last MVP update, I acknowledge that Shai is he's the best player and offensive lifeline, not just the best player, but offensive lifeline and an active participant in a generational defense on a team that might just win 70 games. Mm-hmm. The Celtics not making the conference finals.
That is spicy.
That's spicy because you're really just saying that the Cavs are going to beat them because I don't think that the Knicks or the Magic or anybody else even has close to a leg up on Boston. I know some people are concerned about Boston of late. So that's pretty fearless. And then the second one, I mean, like statistically speaking, you should bet against the field, but that's an interesting one. I mean, I could see another team than Dallas coming out of the West for sure because it's OKC should be the favorite to come out of the West. And I think
that one is not fearless.
I do feel like, are there more options to come out of the West than there are the East? Because I look at Cleveland and Boston, and I think I'd be pretty surprised if anybody else came out of the East.
Yeah, I agree. And I'd even go as far as saying I'd be pretty surprised if it's not OKC in the West. Honestly, I have a hard time seeing like who should be the direct challenger there. Like, here's the Celtics is the one that screws it up for me here because like the first bit from Retro, like Celtics won't make the conference finals. That like, again, that's spicy. That's utterly fearless. Then if you go down to D Knicks, where it's like Boston doesn't make the finals. Like there's a pretty big gap there. Like I'm more inclined to lean into the idea of the Boston Celtics not making the finals than I am them not making the conference finals.
I think the most fearless thing here is the Celtics not making the conference finals because it implies who did they lose to? It's not the Cavs. I guess you're saying like that they lost to the Knicks,
Magic.
or is it the Magic?
So Retro takes this one.
Retro takes this one. That's Boston does not make the conference finals. There are going to be fireworks there probably in the summer. What do we have coming up next for us, Mort?
Jamal Murray gets benched for Russell Westbrook. From at
Is it fearless or reckless?
Yeah. Both. It's probably both. Look, I will concede though, Russ has played better of late. Like he's turned things around. Are we at that point where Jamal Murray is going to come off the bench in favor of Russ? I don't know. It's politically
speaking, you can't do that because there's even if you're gonna go that route, it's you start Jamal Murray and you pull him quickly and have him run like bench units. But I mean, and maybe this is more of a credit to Russ. Look, the Jokic Russ minutes, 13.7 net rating. Yeah. The Jokic Murray minutes, 9.9 net rating. The Jokic Murray minutes without Russ, 6.6 net rating. The Jokic Westbrook minutes without Murray, that's what is their net rating there? 15.9. So I mean, like Russ has been good. This is even look, if you bench Jamal Murray, you nuke his trade value. Just look at it through that lens. This is too fearless for me, but I love the sentiment of it.
No,
I feel like we're hearing more talk about Jamal Murray's been better offensively, at least of late. So it'd be a weird time to see this happen.
Look, Biso understood the assignment here.
Yeah, he did.
He came in and with a real one. I like this.
That was a good one. Yeah. I can't get there though.
No, me neither.
This one might not be fearless enough from Mike. The Cavs will get to 72 wins. That's fearless.
It is fearless. Like whenever you say 70 plus. Yeah.
This isn't the 4-loss Cavaliers team anymore. This is a 5-loss Cavs, Mort. We need to rethink everything we know about them.
I mean, look, whenever you say 70 plus wins, I'm going to call it fearless. That's just a thing.
If you said 70, would that have been fearless still or not fearless enough?
Still fearless. Still pretty fearless. I mean, 70 is still a very magical number when it comes to wins. Like they might get there. Who the hell knows? But at this stage,
would
I'm
it
not
be fearless to say we will get at least one 70-win team this year?
Yeah, because it's still 70. You still have to crack that barrier. Yeah.
I think, you know what? I think, and we're just going to expand this from like, I think the Cavs and/or OKC get to 70 wins this year. I think it'll happen.
What would happen if both do?
Think about how bad the ratings would be because it's not the Lakers. I have no idea. If they both get to 70,
that'd be wild.
That would be insane. I kind of hope it happens, but that would be insane.
It really would. It would be two enormous powerhouses, and then the Celtics might still win the ring.
Oh man, the discourse around Cleveland or OKC, if they win 70 and then don't get to the finals, will be. I don't want to be here for that. I will say.
I'm gonna go on holiday for that one. Then the internet can take care of that while I'm gone.
What's coming up next, Mort?
Alex Sarr, Mavs Rookie of the Year. Wizards will have more wins in the 32 games after the deadline than the 50 games played before it. At Will Clayton.
I think the second part of that is actually not. It's probably the appropriate amount of fearless because there are going to be teams who did not tank their hearts out just yet. That will probably be more inclined to lose games. And then also, I don't know who you take off the Wizards and we're just like, oh, they're just a disaster. It's like if you traded Kyle Kuzma, you trade Malcolm Brogdon. I don't know how much worse they actually get just because they've leaned so far into. They still lean on the vets. I guess if you just said, even if they don't trade them, Malcolm Brogdon, Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, you all got to go home. Sure. The Alex Sarr, the Rookie of the Year thing is caps lock fearless, even by this class's standard. I would like to note, though, he's shown flashes defensively basically all year, and he's starting to figure things out on offense where he's shooting since December 1st, 40% from three on nearly 5 attempts per game, still 46.5% inside the arc, and he's at 28.6% on in the paint twos that aren't in the restricted area, 31.6% from mid-range. But during this stretch, Mort, 80% shooting in the restricted area. Starting to, I think you give him enough spacing. I don't know that I'll ever trust him as kind of the on-ball shot creator type option, but pick and pop, getting to the basket, maybe some paint touches. You're starting to kind of see the vision for him, I think.
I've been thoroughly pissed off at Washington's guards this year. I think they have not done a well enough job at getting him the ball in advantageous positions when he's actually sealed off a defender, or when he's in the dunker spot, or when he's like, one step inside. I don't think overall that the team has done enough for him offensively. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that excuses him from the 40% from the field over the course of the season. He's taken some horrendous shots when he's had the ball. So, it's partly on him, but it's also partly on the organization. I think the NBA community at large does have a tendency to criticize rookies a little bit too quickly, and they tend to forget that veterans can also make mistakes, such as not giving the freaking big man the ball. I mean, he's 7'1". He's a constant lob threat. They don't really use him as enough as such, in my opinion. I'm hoping to see a significantly better second half of the season from him if that happens, and if the Washington guards actually determines to get their thumbs up their asses and actually give him some opportunities. Why wouldn't he be a Roy candidate?
I guess that's true, because McCain's going to remove himself from the fold, so you're kind of competing with Zach Edey, Steph Castle, Jalen Wells, I think would be the primary alternatives there. So appropriate amount of fearless. I like that one.
I like it.
We got some Bulls stuff. So from Camden 2591, the Bulls finally trade Zach LaVine, and then Coby White averages 30 points per game over a 10-game stretch at some point afterwards. Matty L also has the Bulls will make more than one trade.
Okay, that's spicy. The first one from Camden, that's not really fearless. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not. We've seen Coby White have these ridiculous stretches before, and the Bulls finally trade Zach LaVine. That's probably in the cards given how well he's playing right now, if they can get something for him. So it's I don't know. It's fine. It's bathwater temperature, I guess. The Bulls will make more than one trade from Matty L. That is,
he understood the assignment.
Oh yeah. Good on you, Matty.
I hope it happens, because that's what should happen. So,
if Matty wanted to win this whole thing, he would have specified which trades, both trades.
I'm assuming he did mean rotation players, which would still be a pretty big.
Right. No, but I'm saying if Matty came out swinging and was like, the Bulls will make more than one trade, and here are the 2 to 3 trades that they will make, and he outlined that shit.
Here's a hypothetical. What's more likely? The Bulls trade Coby White, or the Bulls trade Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, and Patrick Williams?
Coby White.
I think you're probably right. That might speak to how hard it is to trade Patrick Williams right now. Yeah,
that was not a great idea, picking him fourth and then compounding the mistake by handing him $90 million. That is, that's a problem. Duop Death will win an NBA championship, also from Matty L. So where does he get traded to? OKC?
Boston? Cleveland? Maybe New York? I guess the point
do need a backup center.
Yeah, there's contenders that need enough backup centers to where Duop Death is a podcast favorite. Still not playing a ton in Portland. He is shooting over 40% from 3 though since the start of December. I fave this. This is the appropriate. If we're being real, I mean, even Denver needs kind of a backup center, and he's so cheap. Is there anything you could give up? This is probably more likely than it should be.
You know what people seem to have forgotten in this exercise is that you could have also said Duop Death will win an NBA Cup championship, because that would be fall within 2025.
I wouldn't be fearless, though, because whatever team he's on is clearly going to be an NBA Cup contender, I would think. I like that one, though. This next one, we got 2 that are related to the Phoenix Suns. The Suns will trade Kevin Durant from Nikolche Kolev, and by the end of the year, 2 of the Suns' big 3 won't be in Phoenix anymore. From Stat Center.
Oh, 2. Okay. The first one, that's spicy, but I think one is more fearless.
Here's what I'm thinking. Yeah. But I guess because we're separating this, if you're saying 2 of the Suns' big 3 won't be in Phoenix anymore,
that's Durant and Beal.
Well, I was going to say, isn't it Durant and Booker? Because what's the scenario that you would trade Bradley Beal and then it makes you then go ahead and trade Kevin Durant? You're just saying, let's say they make the Jimmy Butler trade.
Right.
It fails spectacularly, and then Kevin Durant wants out over the offseason. Yeah, you're probably right. That's the way
they're not going to trade Book, though. That he's their guy. Like
if you're trading Kevin Durant, yeah, you should. What's the point at that stage of keeping Devin Booker?
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say what's the point of keeping Devin Booker. Why would Devin Booker want to be there?
Well, he does love it there, but I do agree that that's a situation where he'll have to competitively look into the mirror and say, can I justify sticking around? I don't know, but we agree the Stat Center won this one.
You know what would have been the real mega fearless is all three of them get traded. They make the Butler trade or they get rid of Bradley Beal. It still fails. Durant says he wants out and won't re-sign on an extension. Then Booker looks around and says, I don't know what the future is here. I want out. Yeah. Not off the table. Suns have been a little friskier as of late, but I wouldn't. The Suns trading Kevin Durant. If I had to, do you think Kevin Durant will be on the Suns to start next season?
I think so. Because look, I don't think he'll be satisfied with all these short tenures to wrap up his career. I think he wants to stick it through a little bit.
I think he's going to be gone.
You think he's going to be gone? Okay.
I think he'll probably be on like the Warriors. I think there's just going to be a reunion there.
I would love that.
That was my fearless prediction, by the way, that I deleted so that we could include this one.
I love that. I am so on that one because that was one I wanted to see a while ago, and it didn't happen, and I was very sad because Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry together makes me smile.
Yeah, they were a hell of a duo. So, State of the Suns, perpetually debatable, apparently, though. That was it for us, Mort. Thank everybody for their submissions. I know we're not staring at them anymore, but what was the biggest? Is it the Suns losing two of their big three? That's the one we just covered. Is that
that's up there, or it's the Bulls making two trades?
Well, because you could game that one to say they traded Torrey Craig.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Actually, you know what? Cleveland at 72 wins.
That was also pretty spicy. There was one of the first ones as well was pretty spicy. I don't even remember.
You trying to shout out yourself here?
No. Well, Lord knows I have the ego. No, there was one that was super specific. Was it like the King? Yeah, it was the deal that sent Lauri Markkanen to the Kings and De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs. That was spicy as hell because that was so complicated. It was like, yeah, it has to happen exactly like that. I think that was a good one.
Apologies that we did not get to more of them, but this was fun. We always love the crowdsourcing exercise. That's why you should join our Discord because that's where we predominantly do these crowdsourcings, although I do throw them on Blue Sky. And we had a lot of YouTube submissions this time too, so I should probably use our YouTube channel a little bit more. But Mort, as ever, are you able to tell our listeners where they can find you and all the fantastic work that you do?
I am, but I will also ask you, sir, before we move on, what was the worst one? Because there was that guy, B. Toporek or something. Like, that was awful.
That was terrible.
That was awful.
Honestly, why did you waste? I don't know why I included it. That was an error.
No. Just that. What a sad human being, honestly.
I agree with everything you said. Now tell our listeners where they can find you.
You can find my work over at MSJ NBA on Blue Sky. You can find me at Yahoo Sports, at Forbes, at Sports Illustrated. I also have a podcast named the NBA Podcast, where you'll also listen to this episode because we are actually double crossing. We're crossing our streams. We're the Ghostbusters on this one. And so you can find my work there. I also do a bunch of stuff in Danish, but that doesn't really apply to you. So unless you want to go like Duolingo and learn Danish, yeah. If you want to learn Danish, go to Duolingo and then listen to some of my stuff. You can do that. I have a Danish podcast called Buzzer Beater. You go nuts.
Until next time, and as always, I speak for Mort when I say shout out to the one, the only, the indelible. There's no prediction too fearless or too bold that encapsulates him because he is a legend, Mr. Frank Ntilikina.